I now call the special call meeting of the Board of Commissioners to order. Linda, if you'll please call the roll call for us.
Chairman Morgan.
Here.
Vice Chairman Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner McClendon.
Here.
Commissioner Chance.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Fuller.
Here.
Commissioner Hicks.
Here.
Okay, if I could have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the first thing we have is under the business session, item 4.1 is a SPLOST intergovernmental agreement to be presented by Avery Jackson, the county attorney.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have for your consideration today a SPLOST intergovernmental agreement for a new SPLOST referendum and how those SPLOST funds can be shared between the county and the cities. And the proposal that's before you is a proposal that the SPLOST be split by population as it has been similarly in the past, but that due to the large project that we have coming up dealing with the new Sheriff's Administration building and the jail and the mental health facility, that the county would receive excess collections of the SPLOST after $182 million is collected up to 205, which is about $22.9 million, that the county would get 100% of that excess between 0% growth and 2.5% growth in SPLOST collections to be used for those facilities and other county projects that we would participate in. So that is the proposal for your consideration. I know there's been a mayor's meeting between the chairman and the mayors of the cities where this was originally discussed. There's been a lot of discussions and negotiations back and forth, and I know that there's a lot of opinions on how this might be structured. So I have that for your consideration, and I welcome any questions or concerns or discussions on it.
Well, I'll start with making a comment. First of all, I want to thank the chairman and the mayors and the administration from the different municipalities for working on trying to come to an agreement here for SPLOST. In the negotiations, the city of Carrollton, being the largest municipality within the county, is by state statute, is someone that we have to work with for an amenable agreement. It's my understanding, in addition to the percentage that they are agreeing to, that they would like to purchase the Bradley Street building that Carroll County currently owns for $2.5 million, and wanted to apply that number back to their 2.5% percentage. They were also willing to waive the tap fees for the new facility, and they were also willing to look heavily at making a commitment to upgrading utilities there, very similar to the new admin building agreement that they were gracious to work with us on. So I think there's been a lot of hard work put into this. What I would like to see sent back would be the 0 to the 2.5% growth that we would receive, that, as you stated, to go toward the new sheriff's facility. I'm in agreement with that percentage, but I would like to see us also send back, since they're wanting to purchase the Bradley Street building, a counteroffer for $3 million, but that would be purchased separately. That would not be applied back toward the 2.5%, and that would be a deal only with the city of Carrollton, because, again, they are the ones that we're required to come to an agreement with. And then continuing the waiving of the tap fees, and then continuing the commitment for the utilities upgraded as needed, just like the new admin building that we already have, that they have worked with us on as well. But I thank everyone, the city of Carrollton, the chairman, and everyone for working on this, but that's where I would like to see the agreement sent back, because I could not support them being able to purchase the Bradley Street building and then applying that amount back toward their portion of their 2.5%, because I don't know how I would explain that to my constituents, being able to allow real estate to be applied toward their portion and not being able to apply that to another municipality.
Okay, so I've got the 0 to 2.5%. That's clear. Are we tying the Bradley Street building to the IGA, or is this going to be a separate agreement? How is that going to work?
It's certainly up to the board, but I would suggest that the agreement on the Bradley Street building be a separate agreement, separate and apart from the IGA itself.
Okay.
So you would have an agreement for the IGA and how that's going to be split. You'd have an agreement for the purchase and sale of the Bradley Street building on whatever terms the board would like. And then you would have a development agreement similar to what we had on the administrative building with the city of Carrollton, where we agree to work with each other on.
Okay,
on
so
those.
this still leaves us room to negotiate. We could say, okay, 0 to 2.5%, we're good with that, and then we negotiate the rest of it. Is that, I mean, we're not, I know it's got to go back to Carrollton, they got to look at it, but we got some room here. That's what I'm asking.
Well, the I mean, I didn't make it in the form of a motion, but to answer your question, what I laid out would be the counter offer that we would send
Right.
back, because we are required to work with the city of Carrollton
I know.
currently as we're trying to work through the process. So what I laid out would be my recommendation, whether that's in the form of a motion in a moment, or if someone would, like to add to that, but that was just what I offered to comments first on the table.
Going on Clint's, suggestion, I personally like the idea of both agreements being separated. I may not like the 3 million number. I know you went up from what they were valuing it at, 500,000. But I would be fine with us splitting the agreement and then coming back to the table with the Bradley Street building, the tap fees, the infrastructure upgrades, and then we could work the sale more or less give back, because I think we've all done our research and we've come to the understanding that that was a handshake gentleman's agreement back in earlier days, that the city of Carrollton gave us that building when we needed office space and whatnot. So for me, I don't want to leave any cards on the table, but I want to see us agree to the 0 to 2.5, and then we go back to the table and negotiate building, tap fees, service upgrades, and move from there. And where that number is for sale, I don't,
They sent, this was their counter offer, wasn't it? Am I right about that?
No, this is the county's offer. We discussed this back in February, and y'all had wanted to talk about getting some extra percentage above SPLOST so that everyone could share in it, since it's such a huge project that will benefit the county. So this is the initial agreement. This is not a counter offer. This is the county is initiating this for you to approve or disapprove, so we can send it to the cities for their approval or whatever renegotiations they want to do. So this is the initial agreement.
All right, the building showed up somewhere in all of here. I didn't hear about the building until like Wednesday or Tuesday. So somewhere in here, somebody made the suggestion of the building. Where'd that come from?
I believe that was brought up by the city at the mayor's meeting. I
Okay.
wasn't there, but that's
So-
my understanding is that they
So
brought
they
it up
did.
there.
So this came from the city of Carrollton as an offer.
Discussion only.
Well, still, it sounds like they want the building somewhere in there.
Well, then we send this to them, they send it back with the building. Or you can put something in the building to begin with.
All right.
I think some of this is semantics in
Yeah,
the manner in which
it
we're
is.
presenting this. My proposal on the table was the city of Carrollton brought forward that they wanted the building.
Right.
So I am sending it back to them that we will sell the building, but for the amount, and it will not be applied toward the 0 to 2.5%.
Agreed.
If we are in agreement that $3 million is for a good amount for the building, which I do, then I suggest that we send it together, because they are the ones that sent it to us originally in that manner.
Okay.
The actual documents themselves will still can be handled separately, if you will, in the manner of a business transaction. But to send back in one packet what we are trying to do as a board and counteroffer to them, I think this is the most advantageous.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Well,
I think if we do it that way, it answers all their questions that they sent us. We got it all at one whack and just be done with it. And you can negotiate the price of the building where it's 3 or where it winds up being something different.
At least they know where we stand.
yeah. All right, Clint, you said this, you make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Jackson, would you like me to repeat the information?
Yes, I think that'd be very helpful if you repeated it in form of.
So as a matter of a motion, there's 4 separate points to send back to the city of Carrollton as a counteroffer for the intergovernmental agreement related to SPLOST would be that 0 to 2.5% above the current cycle growth we would receive at Carroll County. Second would be that we would be offering $3 million that we would sell the Bradley Street building to them that they are wanting to purchase, but that would be done separately. It would not be applied toward their original offer to us to go toward the 2.5%. They would agree, third, to waive the tap fees on the facility. And then fourth, they would agree to the development agreement for the upgrading of any utilities in the area, much similar to the agreement that we had for the new county admin.
Okay. I'll second it.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Are we set on the $3 million? That's,
That's what they'll send us a counter offer.
but are we gonna run out of time to get a SPLOST?
We're tight, but we can always have more special call meetings. You just all have to be available for them.
That we can make availability?
Oh, I can, no doubt.
Okay, well, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Motion carries 6-1.
The next item we have is 4.1, and Avery, if you'll stand and present that to us, the solid waste service agreements for the convenience centers.
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners, you might recall Danny Yates mentioning this at a couple meetings back. Of course, this comes into play with a lot of the upgrades that the county is doing to its convenience centers. But the county has had a solid waste services hauling agreement with Waste Industries for a number of years, as they've been the hauler for the county for things from the convenience centers to the transfer station, and then the transfer station to the landfill. And this is specifically the agreement that deals with hauling between the convenience centers and the transfer station. They're going to a per haul price instead of a fixed fee price, which is what we had previously. And so with that, the county is doing a number of capital improvements to its convenience centers so that we can decrease the number of hauls that we will need. The board has approved compactors that Public Works is currently obtaining and installing in the convenience centers and in the parks to keep that amount down. But this is a renewal of the existing agreement, with the main change being from a fixed fee to a per haul rate of $310. And again, we have cut down drastically on the services that we're asking Waste Industries, doing business as GFL, to perform. We're doing a lot of recycling that GFL will not be carrying for us. You have already approved an agreement with the hauler that's going to take the recycling materials. We have put compactors in the parks, and shortly I'll present to you an agreement for hauling from the parks to the transfer station. And the fire department, or fire stations are taking care of their own trash. So we've done a lot of things to drastically reduce, like I said, Danny Yates and Alicia, the finance director, and the chairman have all been working tirelessly at a number of meetings to come up with strategies. And of course, you were all involved in that at the retreat, and that was a big topic of discussion. And then Danny went back and brought to you those capital improvements. So we're doing what we can to keep those per hauls down, but we have, for your consideration, that renewal of the agreement with Waste Industries.
Just one question, or one comment, I guess. There has been a lot of work put forth on this by a lot of people, and I appreciate it. So on this, is this one, I read through the document, but is it when we call them and let them know that's full, or is it up to them to decide when it's full?
We call them our attendants at the convenience centers, and that's what we do. We do now.
Okay.
When it gets to a certain level, they go ahead and make those calls, and GFL responds in 24 hours and pulls those compactors and takes them and dumps them for us.
I'll look for a motion and a second to accept this.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we'll leave you up there, Avery, for 4.3, the solid waste service agreements for the parks.
So on the same note that we just discussed, Danny Yates Public Works Department solicited some bids after he converted the parks to the compactors as the board approved, and he's waiting on getting those, and he's working on getting those as quickly as possible to install those. But he determined that we could potentially find cheaper alternatives to hauling those compactors from the parks to the transfer station, and he solicited a couple of bids from three bidders. He got two in writing. One was for $270 per haul, and one was for $200 per load from Georgia Container and Portable Toilets of Georgia. So his recommendation was the $200 per haul load, and that's hauling from the parks the new compactors that will be purchased by Public Works Department and installed by them to the transfer station.
Are we still moving stuff out of the parks with the dumpsters, the front end dumpsters?
It is the Public Works Department and Danny Yates' job to convert everything from front end loaders to roll-offs.
Okay.
And so the goal will be to be 100% roll-offs, and that's what he's actively working on.
All right. Thank you.
I'll look for a motion and a second to accept this.
Make a motion that we accept the solid waste services agreement for the parks.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
I'm going to ask Alicia Searcy, our finance director, to come forward to do the budget amendment for FY '25.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. We have before us for your consideration the budget amendment for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2025. We're making amendments to several funds, starting with the general fund. We're asking to increase that by $1,753,000 for revenue and expenses. That will cover employee retention pay and expenditures at the jail for the sheriff's office. In addition to that, we're asking to increase the grant fund by $5,000. That was a grant received for uniforms and supplies for the fire department, and that's where the expense will be. Increase in the clerk's co-op of $20,000 for additional contractual services and equipment purchases. Increase in the opioid settlement fund of $145,000, and that will be for expenditures within the judicial department and public safety and the general government. Hotel motel increase of $10,000 of revenue and $10,000 of expenses, and those are split evenly between convention and visitors, Chamber of Commerce, and the general fund. Increase of $6,772,000 for the American Rescue Plan Fund. Those are the expenditures that are paid out of what we refer to as the ARPA fund. Juvenile Court Superior Supervision Fee Fund, increase that by $8,500, and increase the Street Light Fund by $3,500, an increase to Solid Waste for $840,915. That is the insurance money that we've received for the solid waste transfer station collapse. And we will move that into a capital projects fund to be held to rebuild the transfer station.
Ms. Cersey, you and I had a discussion earlier. Thank you for all your work on this. Typically, each year in, we have looked at where we've had excess revenues or expenditure savings and tried to figure out what we needed to do in the moment. We have done a couple different things throughout the last few years, but we've typically tried to do somewhere in the neighborhood of a third for capital improvements, a third of that back toward employee retention, and then a third of that for fund balance or debt pay down. In this particular budget amendment, we're not looking to do a fund balance increase because I don't think that's appropriate. I would like to have seen us do a debt pay down. I understand that we've got a lot of things going on in the county project-wise. The county's in very good financial shape, but everyone is wondering what the future looks like with the economy and so forth. So I'm in agreement with everything in this budget amendment and will support it today. I would just ask the chairman and the rest of the commissioners that if we could relook at this in 6 months, 3 months, certainly not waiting a full year to see once those tax digest numbers come in and give the finance department a little better opportunity to continue to paint a clearer picture through this process that we go through every year to see if we can pay down some more on the fund balance, through the fund balance to pay down on our debt. We're very close, in my opinion, to paying off that debt, and to me, I would love a big green check box to say that we have paid off a certain portion there that we're carrying as debt. So I would just ask that of the commissioners, and I know Ms. Cersey and I had a conversation, and she's always willing to do whatever the pleasure of the board is to try to look at this if we'd like to in the future. So those are my comments. Thank you.
I'll look for a motion and a second to approve the budget amendment as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
And Alicia, I believe you and Dave were here to request the fire rescue full-time position for this next fiscal year.
Yes. In the budget, we included funding for fire marshal captain position. It should have been on the budget resolution as an additional position, but I missed that. So we're coming back to ask you, the funding for the position has been approved, but we're coming back to ask for the head for the position so that we'll have that head available to the fire department. And that position will be an assistant to the fire marshal, helping with reporting and other fire marshal related things.
I'll look for a motion and a second to accept this position.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Chief, you gonna send that fire marshal out to the schools like I used to?
Yeah, she's gonna be, that's part of her responsibility is community risk reduction, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look for a motion and a second to adjourn the special called meeting.
Motion
To
to-
adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, now we'll go straight into our work session. And the first thing we have is the financial recap from May of 2025. I will call Alicia, our finance director, back to the podium.
All right, Commissioners, we have before us the May 2025 financials. So we're 11 months ended here, and we're sitting in good shape as far as revenues and expenses. Our revenues at the end of May were $78,837,321. That compares to last year, where we were at $75,094,793. We've still got $2,817,073 to meet our budget of $81,654,394. I anticipate that we should collect in excess of $2,817,000, so I think that we will make our revenue budget. As far as our expenses are concerned, at the end of May, we're sitting at $70,370,370. That's $11,284,000 below budget. Now, we will see some year-end expenses that'll pick that up, but I still think our expenses will come in at or below budget. So that gives us a fund balance at the end of May of $54,152,486. Our revenue collections are at 96.55% of budget, and our expenses are at 86.18% of budget. On the 13 splost money, the only thing that we spent out of that for May was the LMIG money, and we continue to work on the Tice-Carrollton Road widening project. That's the majority of it, the expenses that we're seeing out of that LMIG fund. On the 21 splost, we're working on some big projects there. The administration building, the 5th floor being the two largest. 5th floor, we made, not our last payment, I think the 5th floor is coming to the conclusion. There will still be some renovations that are done on the other floors once departments move up into that 5th floor area. The administration building's coming along. We've spent $48,000 on it, but we had two payments to Balfour Beatty on the last month, so we'll pick that back up in June and have a bigger payment there. And then we paid Pond and Company for the traffic study, the safety traffic study that we're having done. And so those are the big expenses there. We had total expenditures on projects of $652,913. And then you can see our revenue countywide was $2,675,000, and we made the distributions to the cities of $1,018,564.
We're going to be able to have a soft opening for the commissioners on the 5th floor.
Are we going to have what?
It's called a soft opening. Let us go up and get a tour of it.
I'm sure.
We will have a tour. I think everybody wants to see it.
Yeah, I do.
I'd like to see it too. I haven't seen it recently.
Okay, if there's no further questions or discussion, we'll move into the business session of our meeting for Tuesday, July 8th. The first thing on that item is 10-1, the agricultural conservation easements, a Castleberry application. And we have Kelly Hagan here to present.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and District Commissioners. My name is Kelly Hagan. I currently serve as the chairperson of the Carroll County Ag Advisory Committee. One of the main tasks that we were given when this committee was established was the overseeing of the Agricultural Covenant Program. Last year, the committee spent a lot of time revamping, reestablishing the application process. We held a forum. And in that forum, to explain to the agricultural community, we had 61 people who attended that meeting. We had 20 people who left with the packets that we had created to apply for the program. The deadline was a little short last year because we were new and getting started, but we had 2 that were returned. Of those 2, one was not feasible due to their soil, did not meet the criteria to move forward. So we were left with 1 application, which is the one that you have in front of you. It's Mr. Gary Castleberry, who's located at 160 Needmore Road in Roopville. Mr. Castleberry owns 184.86 acres. It was originally part of the 1,200-acre Hugh Thomas farm back in the day. Mr. Castleberry has owned his acreage since 1995. Of the 184 acres, he will be implementing the 178.52 acres into the conservation easement program. Mr. Castleberry has made major improvements since buying the property. They constructed a home. They have built barns. He has fenced, cross-fenced. It's a cattle operation currently now. It currently has 70% in pasture, which he does run his cattle on. There's about 16% in forested areas and 8% in wetlands, which consist of 2 ponds that I think encompasses about 12 acres, and then about 2,000 linear feet of creek runs through the property. This is in a highly agricultural area, but that is seeing some residential development close by. It is also in close proximity to some of the other agricultural covenant easements that we have in the county. So we are submitting this for your consideration to be part of the fiscal year 2026 Conservation ASAP program.
Ms. Hagan, thank you for the work that you do on the committee and everyone here. I see my appointee, Mr. Morris, thank you for being here as well, and Ms. D as well. I think you bring a very unique perspective, not just to call you out individually, but understanding what cattle operation is and livestock, and then also being in the real estate market. Sometimes we think of farmers and real estate colliding, and to have someone that can split both of those and understand both industries is very valuable for the committee work that you're doing. So thank you for your work, and then everyone else on the committee in vetting and going through these processes and trying to bring forth what you think are good applications for us to support.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or discussion? I'll look for a motion and a second to accept the Castleberry application. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. No. Y'all good with putting this on consent agenda for Tuesday night? Mm-hmm. That's what I was asking. Okay, good. All right, so we'll put that on consent. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thanks to the committee. Okay, 10.1, a financial audit is an engagement letter for the audit services, and I'll call Alicia Searcy back to present that for us.
We have for your consideration the engagement letter from Rushton, our certified public accountants, who we've worked with over the years to provide our financial audits. They again have sent us an engagement letter, which I think you've had for your review. If you'll look over on page 9, that's where we get to their fees. And we've worked real closely with them to try to make the audit process as efficient as possible. And in doing that, we've been able to keep their fees where at a level rate over the past 5 years. So their fee for this year will be $97,800, $8,000 for a single audit, and $5,000 for each additional major program if we have anything related to that. Outside of that, the engagement letter is pretty much consistent with what we had last year.
Any questions? Well, seeing and hearing none, I'll look for a oh, wait a minute, can't do that again. It's just are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I'm just thinking, I don't know why we just didn't go ahead and have our meeting today. All right, items 10.3 and 10.4. Thad is at a rec department convention, so he is unable to be here. I don't know if any of y'all had a chance to chat with him. He is happy to come back on Tuesday, or if y'all are comfortable with something as kind of generic as this, putting on consent. It's up to you if you want to come, or if you have further questions. I'm open to suggestion on how you want to handle 10.3 and 10.4.
I've not been able to speak with him because he's been out of town, as you stated. I mean, the money is obviously not a lot, but I don't know if, I guess we've got such a bigger program going on over there and so many moving parts. I don't know if maybe we want to hear from him, not because that amount is so much, but making sure that everything's in line from what we're trying to do, because there's a lot of moving parts related to those lights. But I'm amenable if the other commissioners are fine with moving forward, but I would personally like to hear from him.
Yeah, I think we ought to hear from him.
Okay, so we will leave that to Tuesday night, July the 8th. All right, 10.5 is a fire rescue equipment donation resolution, and we have our interim chief, Dave Wade, to tell us about this.
Commissioners, Chairman, thanks for having me this afternoon. So back earlier in the year, we were contacted by Harris County, one of their fire departments down there. They're a complete volunteer department. The only two paid departments are the two city departments. So they had got wind that we had some trucks that we had took out of service from the new trucks that had come in. And this is one of the oldest ones in the fleet. They're 1995 models. Fleet maintenance is good with getting them gone because some of the parts that's on them doesn't transition to some of our newer apparatus. So they've reached out and they've asked, would we be willing to donate the truck to them? So that's what we're here before you today.
Chief, regarding the parts that you mentioned, so essentially you don't think that the truck really has value to it because it is so old, not only not for ourselves, but you don't think it really has a marketable value?
Yeah, you're not going to really get anything for it if we try to sell it. I mean, it's just the age of the truck. It's a Detroit engine. Detroit's for really good motors. I wish they were still in business doing that. But we can't even use any of that with our newer stuff. So we're kind of just dead in the water with that.
I certainly don't have a problem with this. As you and I spoke on the phone, I would just want to make sure moving forward that you have a robust internal process that we're asking all other municipalities or any other fire service, first responder services that are not under the county's umbrella to make sure that's not something they would want. And then I know we have neighboring jurisdictions such as Haralson County that answered our 911 calls the other day when lightning hit. So our supporting neighbors as well, just making sure that we're running it by them first before we go kind of outside the envelope to West Georgia would be my only request.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good idea. I'm good with it.
Do these trucks run?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. All right, 10.6 is the hazard mitigation grant. We have you on that also.
So this is a grant that was applied for back in May of 23. It's to add 40 kW generators, diesel power generators, to every station that we have that doesn't currently have one. The only one that it'll be replacing will be Whitesburg. That one's unserviceable, it's not functional, and it's not repairable. So this was a grant that was a shared purchase between FEMA and GEMA and us as well. So GEMA didn't contribute nothing, but that's who we're reporting to, and that's who's kind of functioning the grant through the mitigation plan. The total cost of it is $690,496.71. Our share of that is $172,617.43. And I spoke with Ms. Cersei, and we've decided to take that from our 21 SPLOST for our match to cover that. But this will have all of our fire stations that will have full generator power in the event of power failure.
Hoorah.
I think that's great. Anytime you get awarded a grant, I mean, we're having to put a good bit with it, but it has a lot of value to it as well.
Are y'all good putting this on a consent?
Yes.
Okay. All right, 10-7, we have the transit contract renewal for the fiscal year of 25-26, and we have County Attorney Stacy Blackman to present this for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This is the annual renewal of the Transit System Services Agreement with Three Rivers. It's exactly the same contract that we had last year. The same compensation is owed for the local match. There's federal grant funding, and the county's share is no more than $70,000. And the fare for the riders is still the same.
Y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda?
Yeah, it was all over the radio this morning.
Right. I do not anticipate us having an executive session on Tuesday night, July the 8th, so let me just recap before we adjourn. Is 10-1 and 10-2, which is the agricultural conservative easement for Castberry application, a financial audit, the fire rescue equipment donation resolution of 10-5, 10-6, the hazard mitigation grant, and 10-7, transit contract renewal will all be on consent. So at our Tuesday, July 8th meeting, we will have a plan and zoning item, and then we'll have 10-3 and 10-4 that we'll hear from Thad about the rec department request. Okay. This time, we will adjourn our work session.